Rain whispered across the cracked pavement of Bayfield Elementary, carrying the smell of salt and rust from the nearby sea. Little Lila Carter clutched her lunchbox, watching the gray sky spill tears on the old wooden benches. Across the street, a boy sat huddled under the awning of a closed store, soaked, hungry, and invisible to everyone who passed. Something in his eyes, tired, hollow, almost lost, pulled her forward before she could think. She crossed the road, holding out her sandwich with trembling hands. He hesitated, then looked up, startled by kindness. The world seemed to pause, two lives touching for the first time, through an act no one would ever see. What makes someone stop for a stranger? And what if that single moment could echo through a lifetime? After school, Lila skips beside her mother, Mara, through puddles that mirror the dimming sky. Mara laughs softly, unaware of what her daughter did that morning. Inside the small kitchen that smells of bread and steam, Lila finally tells her. Her mother pauses, eyes glistening. "Never stop being that kind of person," she says. "Kindness always finds its way home." Lila doesn't understand yet, but something in her heart glows. The rain outside slows as if listening. Night falls over Bayfield. Outside, waves crash against the shore as Lila stares through her bedroom window, tracing raindrops on the glass. Somewhere out there, she imagines the boy finding shelter. Her heart feels lighter, as if she's shared something invisible and sacred. A small act that no one saw, but somehow changed her view of the world. Across town, Ethan finds an abandoned shed near the docks. He unwraps the last half of Lila's sandwich, eating slowly, savoring more than food, the feeling of being seen. For the first time in weeks, he falls asleep with a faint smile, holding the crumpled foil like a memory he'll never let go. The next morning dawns bright and clear. Lila walks to school, the sea glittering beside her. She doesn't look back toward the awning, maybe afraid the boy is gone. But somewhere deep inside, she senses their stories have only begun to weave together. Some meetings, after all, are written by the rain. Years roll forward like waves over sand. The town of Bayfield changes. New shops rise, old memories fade. But somewhere in its quiet corners, the echo of a rainy day still lingers. Ethan Cole, now 17, works odd jobs at the docks. His life still fragile, but no longer rootless. One night, a fisherman named Mr. Halverson offers him a warm meal and a place to sleep. "Everyone needs a chance," the old man says. Ethan nods, remembering another act of kindness that once saved him. It isn't the meal that fills him, it's the feeling of being trusted again. While Ethan learns to work, Lila grows. At 12, she sketches houses in the margins of her notebooks. Little dreams with open doors and wide windows. Mara watches her daughter with pride, whispering that imagination is the most valuable thing anyone can own. Each drawing feels like a promise, a way to build warmth in a cold world. Ethan spends his evenings repairing old boats beside Mr. Haverson, who teaches him about patience and purpose. One night, as they mend a torn net, the old man says, "Kindness is like a seed. You may not see it grow, but one day it'll find sunlight." Ethan stares at the horizon, remembering a little girl's yellow raincoat through the rain. A face that's grown blurry, but never gone. 5 more years pass. Ethan, now a young man, leaves Bayfield with determination in his stride. Mr. Gorger meet me stride. Halverson's farewell echoes in his mind. Find your own harbor, but never forget the people who pulled you ashore. Meanwhile, Lila, now 17, stands on the same pier, sketchbook in hand, drawing the same horizon Ethan once gazed upon. Two souls bound by an invisible thread. Close, yet still strangers in time. Years blur into adulthood. Ethan becomes a rising developer, learning to build what he once slept beside. Homes, towers, opportunity. Yet, Sometimes, in glass reflections and city rain, he sees a flash of yellow and feels a pang he can't explain. Lila, now an architecture graduate, returns to Bayfield, determined to restore the old town rather than replace it. She still believes in open doors, not just in houses, but in hearts. The years have carved the town of Bayfield into something half-forgotten. Chipped paint, empty storefronts, silence where laughter once lived. Lila Carter stands in the town square holding her presentation folder, her dream project to restore Bayfield's harbor shimmering in her hands. Investors from the city have arrived, led by a man whose name she doesn't yet know. Across the square, Ethan Cole steps out of a black car, scanning the buildings he once slept beside. Neither recognizes the other, yet both pause, sensing a strange familiarity in the air. Some moments hum before they speak. Inside the town hall, Lila presents her design with conviction, her voice steady despite nerves. She speaks of preserving history instead of erasing it, of community over profit. Ethan listens from the front row, his sharp expression unreadable. Something about her passion draws him in, a warmth beneath her professionalism that reminds him of something long buried. When she finishes, the room is silent. Then Ethan leans forward, his tone calm but piercing. "You believe emotion belongs in architecture?" She smiles faintly. "I believe people do." After the meeting, Lila steps outside into a breeze heavy with sea salt. She exhales, half proud, half anxious. Behind her, Ethan exits, phone in hand, voice clipped as he speaks of profits and deadlines. But when she passes him, he pauses mid-sentence, watching her walk away. There's something in the tilt of her head, the rhythm of her steps, a flicker that tugs at memory. He frowns, unable to place it, the echo of a little girl in yellow barely whispering through time. That evening, Lila meets with her mother at the small coastal cafe where Mara still works. They sit by the window overlooking the tide. Mara listens as Lila talks about the investor, about his silence, his intensity. "Sometimes," Mara says softly, "the people we need most come in quiet ways." Lila smiles, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, unaware that fate is already weaving them closer. Outside, lightning flickers across the distant sea, a memory of another storm long ago. That night, Ethan drives alone through the empty streets of Bayfield, the rain returning softly against his windshield. He slows near the old school, the same gate, the same bench, the same awning where years ago a girl in yellow had offered him warmth. He doesn't know why he stops. The world feels quieter here, as if holding a secret he can almost remember. He closes his eyes, and for the first time in years, feels something like peace, or maybe longing. The following weeks weigh heavily on Lila. Her project, once the pride of the community, begins to crumble under unpaid bills and silent partners. At her small studio, she watches rain streak across her design models, the same rain that once blessed her childhood kindness. Yet she refuses to give up. "We can still save this," she whispers to herself, voice trembling. Outside, Bayfield seems to mirror her struggle. Windows boarded, streets empty. But even in her exhaustion, there's a stubborn spark that refuses to die. Meanwhile, Ethan sits in a glass office high above the city, sleek, sterile, untouched by the lives beneath it. His assistant briefs him on upcoming acquisitions, including a note. Bayfield redevelopment, nearing approval. He signs without thinking, pen gliding effortlessly across paper. But the name lingers. Bayfield. He whispers it once, like a ghost of a word. A sudden ache balloons in his chest, inexplicable, pulling him backward into the rain-soaked edges of memory. Lila visits the town council, pleading for an extension, her voice steady despite exhaustion. The officials exchange polite smiles, but their answers are mechanical. As she leaves, her hands tremble slightly, the weight of dreams slipping through her fingers. Outside, she stands beneath the old oak near the harbor, watching boats sway idly. Her mother's words echo in her mind. Kindness always finds its way home. She closes her eyes, whispering, "Then come home soon." That night, Ethan returns to his penthouse. The city's glow muted through glass. He pours a drink, but doesn't taste it. Instead, he opens his old journal. Something he's carried from his youth without ever reading again. The first page is water-stained, edges frayed, in shaky handwriting. One line stands out. "A girl gave me her lunch today." His breath catches. The memory strikes like lightning. Her raincoat, her smile, the warmth in her eyes. He whispers, "Lila," though he doesn't yet know her name, only her kindness. The next morning, Lila finds an eviction notice pinned to her studio door. Her hands tremble as she reads it, the letters blurring through tears. She looks out at the sea, where gulls scatter across the wind, and whispers, "I just wanted to build something that mattered." She doesn't see the black car parked across the street, or the man inside watching quietly. Ethan, searching for a way to make sense of what he's just remembered. Days blend into one another as Lila packs up her studio. Each box feels heavier than the last, not with objects, but with the quiet grief of dreams unfinished. Outside, the town moves on, unaware that one of its fiercest believers is fading. She walks to the harbor, sketchbook under her arm, watching the tide swallow pieces of driftwood. "Maybe some things aren't meant to be saved," she murmurs. But even as the words leave her lips, something inside her resists them. That stubborn spark of the little girl who once gave instead of kept. At his office, Ethan faces a wall of digital renderings, sleek towers projected over the same harbor. Lila calls home. His company celebrates the deal. His signature made it final. But as champagne glasses clink, he can't breathe. He excuses himself, walking to the window, staring at the rain beginning to fall again. The reflection that looks back feels like a stranger, one who built success out of forgetting. "What have I done?" he whispers, as thunder rolls like memory. That night, Lila returns to the cafe where her mother works, her hands empty, her spirit quieter than ever. Mara sits across from her, listening without judgment as Lila admits defeat. "Maybe kindness isn't enough," she says softly. Mara reaches across the table, squeezing her hand. "It's never enough for the world," she replies. "But it's always enough for the heart." Tears fill Lila's eyes as she leans into her mother's shoulder. The same warmth that once taught her how to give. Ethan drives through Bayfield's winding streets under heavy rain, each turn stirring fragments of memory. He stops again near the school. That same awning, the same bench, older now, but still there. Stepping out into the downpour, he walks toward it, rain soaking his suit. The moment crashes back, a small hand offering a sandwich, a girl's voice asking if he was hungry. He leans against the wall, whispering through the storm. It was her. Lightning flashes, and for the first time his success feels hollow compared to that single act of grace. Morning comes quietly. Lila walks the shoreline with a box of sketches, her final goodbye. She kneels, setting the papers free into the wind, watching them scatter like lost dreams. One sketch drifts higher, catching a gust and disappearing toward the town. She watches it go, unaware that somewhere beyond the dunes, Ethan finds that same paper pressed against his windshield. It's a drawing of Bayfield, labeled home. He stares at it for a long time before whispering, "I remember her." Ethan parks his car at the harbor, still holding the rain-soaked sketch. The air smells of salt and memory. He walks through the old market streets, now nearly abandoned, searching for answers he doesn't yet know how to ask. Finally, he steps into a cafe to escape the drizzle. The same one Mara Carter works in. She greets him politely, unaware of who he is. But when she mentions her daughter, Lila, something inside him stops cold. His heart thunders. The world tilts slightly, every sound falling away except her voice. Later that evening, Ethan walks along the coast, Mara's words echoing in his mind. My daughter's fighting to save this town. Always has been. The wind carries the sound of waves crashing, each one tugging him closer to memory. He remembers every detail now. Her tiny hand, the sandwich wrapped in foil, her smile under the rain. He stops by the same bench where it all began, kneeling as if before a shrine. It was her, he whispers again, voice trembling. For the first time, he understands the real value of everything he's built and what he's about to destroy. Lila spends the night at her mother's home, unable to sleep. Her sketches are gone, her hope nearly with them. She stares at the ceiling, wondering if her kindness has finally reached its end. But when she looks out the window, she sees headlights pause outside. A car door opens. A man steps into the drizzle, clutching a piece of paper, one of her sketches. He walks toward the porch. She rises slowly, heart pounding without reason. Me, an hour 40. When the door opens, they both freeze. Neither speaks. The rain hums between them. Ethan's voice finally breaks the silence. You gave me your lunch. Lila frowns, confused, then her eyes widen as the truth begins to form. He tells her everything. The storm, the sandwich, the moment that changed his life. Tears rise in her eyes as she realizes what fate has done. All this time, she whispers. Ethan lowers his gaze, ashamed yet grateful. You saved me, he says softly. Now let me save you. Inside the quiet of the Carter home, they sit across from each other at the kitchen table. No grand speeches, only truth. Ethan explains how her kindness gave him a reason to fight, how every success he built carried the shadow of that day. Lila listens, tears falling freely now. You don't owe me anything, she says gently. Maybe not, he replies. But I owe the world what you gave me. Outside, the rain begins to ease. A new light creeps across the window, the first sunrise of hope. Days later, the town gathers at the harbor. News spreads. The Bayfield redevelopment has been halted. Instead, the project has been reimagined, not skyscrapers, but restoration. Ethan stands before the townspeople, nervous but certain. This place gave me shelter when I had none, he says, voice low but steady. And one act of kindness here changed my life. It's time I give that back. The crowd murmurs. Lila watches from the edge, eyes glistening as his words fall like healing rain over the square. After the announcement, Lila walks with Ethan along the pier. The air is calm, the tide low, gulls crying faintly above them. She asks quietly, why do this? He looks out at the sea, his voice gentle. Because I finally remembered what it feels like to be human. She smiles, tears threatening again, and for a long moment, they say nothing. Sometimes silence carries more truth than words ever could. Weeks later, hammers echo softly through the air as workers rebuild Bayfield's forgotten homes. Lila oversees the project, her designs now funded and alive. Ethan helps wherever he can, trading suits for rolled sleeves and sawdust. Children run along the docks again, laughter returning to streets once silent. Each wall raised feels like a piece of the past forgiven, not by money, but by memory finding purpose. One evening, when the last rays fade over the sea, Lila visits the old bench by the school. It's been restored too. Fresh paint, steady wood, but still the same heart. Ethan finds her there, sitting quietly, watching the horizon. He joins her without a word. She turns to him, smiling. Funny, she says, how one meal can build an entire town. He chuckles softly. No, he answers, eyes warm. It built me. Months later, Bayfield thrives once more. The cafe hums with laughter, the harbor shimmers, and the houses glow like lanterns against the dusk. Ethan visits often, not as a developer but as a neighbor. And every now and then, when rain begins to fall, he looks toward the school and smiles. Because sometimes one act of kindness doesn't just save a life, it rebuilds it. Lila's voice carries softly over the final image. Kindness always finds its way home.